Hello, everyone. I'm David, and I always kind of think it's funny when people show up to my talks because usually you have already heard me for like 1,000 hours before. So I'm honored that you all are here to listen to me once again. For those that don't know, I have I think, kind of an interesting starting point into crypto. I majored in psychology, which, I mean, there's many different ways to enter the crypto world. There's like 10,000 ways into the rabbit hole, but I think psychology is like an underappreciated one. Also with biology as well, but that's actually a subject for a different day. Ethereum means a lot to me. I was personally in kind of a dark place when I found Ethereum, and I used Ethereum as a thing to start to distract myself, and then I realized that there's actually a ton of meaning and responsibility in what we're doing here when we build these crypto systems. And I think people that discover crypto, it resonates with them at a very deep level, probably before they can really articulate why. And this is my attempt at doing that. And I think anyone who comes into crypto understands that crypto is something very deep. It goes down to the basement. It goes to the bare metal of what we're doing in crypto. And I will classify crypto as something that's trying to build a social structure. And so a social structure is just a foundation for society to organize around. How did we go from tribes of monkeys to an entirely interdependent network of humans that are cooperating across far distances all across the world? How did we do that? And the answer is with social structures. And our social structures it's a technology format. It's a form factor for technologies. And social structures go back to like maybe the earliest, strongest social structures are religions. If you are a Christian, and then you walk 10,000 miles, and then you meet another Christian, you can just know that by the cross around their neck, that they understand the same story that you do. You can trust them because they tell a similar story that you believe in. And we have different religions that have provided social structures for us to actually scale our cooperation. That's like a very early one. Then we progress forward in time. We get a little bit more scientific. We get a little bit more concrete. We go from the abstract and the interpretable to something that we try and make very, very objective and very, very concrete. And then we discover that, oh, these social structures scale a little bit further. They're a little bit more dependable. They're a little bit more objective. And I think crypto is on the same plane. Crypto is the next evolution of objective, scalable social structures. But also, social structures can go wrong. Here's some of our newest social structures, right? These Web 2 apps. They allow us to talk and communicate to people across far distances in ways that create culture and create individual expression and allow us to come to consensus on like what we believe. The memes that we think are funny, the movies that we think are cool, things that we value in culture. Here is what I think is the next evolution of social structures. So first we have the very, very abstract, the very, very interpretable, and then a little bit less interpretable, things that we're trying to codify laws here. And then we go into codifying cryptography. I think this is actually all the same technology progressing forward into future. And all of my talks start here. If you've been following Bankless and following some of the work, this is like the thing I've been focused on since like getting into crypto. This is like why I'm here, and I think why everyone is here, but in their own specific way, shape, and flavor. Like going back to first we were monkeys, and now we are playing on Ethereum. There's a through line there that I think we should all understand. But also, I want to emphasize the danger of social structures. Social structures have brought us to where we are today. We have buildings and air conditioning and plumbing, yet also we have the largest capacity for destruction that we've ever had before. Little did we know, nuclear proliferation, this is where we're at, where there are 10,000 nuclear weapons pointed right here, right now, that there's a button away from that. And that's true for most places that people live. That's scary. And that is a byproduct of, I don't know why I'm pointing it that way, this social structure. So this has done pretty good work, but also we have these negative consequences of social structures that, oops, maybe they're less ideal, right? Turns out after we adopt Facebook, too far. Turns out after we adopt Facebook, Facebook starts causing civil wars in countries. And so, for the most part, these things are good, but there's huge weaknesses that each system brings to the table that we have to account for. And so as we build Ethereum, as we build these new social structures, it becomes really important that we understand what leaks and what is bad. But I want to talk about, in this particular, this is, again, nation-state, the leakage, the negative consequences of the nation-state social structure. We have the military-industrial complex. But I want to talk about how all of us, when we live on top of these social structures, how does it change us? Because it's ultimately going to become up to us how these systems are expressed. I think we all know from 2022 and just the onslaught of scammers that year brought us, while we have these amazing foundations, it's the people that live on top of them that come to define them. And so I want to talk about responsibility, because I think this goes down to the very root of what we're doing here. There's a couple definitions I want to pull out. Responsibility, the state or fact of having a duty to deal with something or having control over someone, or the state or fact of being accountable or to blame for something, and the opportunity or ability to act independently and make decisions without authorization. To make decisions without authorization. Sounds a lot like permissionlessness, for example. And what I think crypto is really doing, and specifically public-private key cryptography, is imbuing you, the individual, with responsibility. And that is not something that we have had before. Banks, you'd give the money to the banks because they're like, I don't want to take care of it. Take care of it for me. And the bank's like, sure, charge you a fee, which is great. It's a good service. It's just got to start somewhere. And same thing with representative democracy. We needed to cut corners around direct representation by having this representative democracy where you vote for someone who votes for someone who votes for someone. You're kind of giving away your responsibility. Still, it's a system that we had that is better than just being monkeys. So these are all just developing in a direction. I think cryptography and public-private keys are the next step for that. And they are giving us all the responsibility that we need in our lives to have control and have power. But of course, with great power comes great responsibility. Who knows what this book is? Raise your hand. So the through line for this book, Viktor Frankl survived the Holocaust. And he ended up being, I don't know if he was a psychologist before, but he was definitely a psychologist afterwards, or a psychotherapist. His conclusion as to how did some people make it through the Holocaust and how did others not make it through the Holocaust, he had a thesis. And it comes down to being responsible for something. If you were independent, if you were solo in the Holocaust, you might not have made it, versus somebody who had something on the outside that they were responsible for. As it turns out, it doesn't take that much to have something important to you that you need to live for to make it through one of the worst atrocities that humanity has ever seen. Simply as things, there are some stories in here that somebody had a dog that they needed to feed, and it was their responsibility to feed the dog, and that got them through the Holocaust. Trivial things like that. You have a family member that you need to take care of, and all of a sudden that gives you the candle in the darkness to make it through, again, the worst time that humans have ever faced. And so it goes down to being responsible for something can get you through a lot. And so this is one of my favorite memes out there. It's this nihilism, right? Where nothing in life matters. Oh no, it's all meaningless. But if you can create your own meaning, if you have the tools to be imbued with responsibility, all of a sudden you're nice, I get to choose my life path. But first we need to be in a context where we actually have control over things. Same meme. Let me skip forward to the one I want to go. Yeah, so who knows what this is? I think, Milgram shock experiment. Yeah, so sadly it's a puppy. So this is a shock box, and you put the puppy on the shock side, and then you turn on the shock, and the puppy hops over the wall to the no shock side because it wants to escape the shock, right? And so it actually has agency. It can do something. And so if it is in pain, if it's under duress, the puppy has the ability to go do something. Sadly, there was another control study in this experiment where both sides shocked. And so that was bad because the dog would hop over the wall and then it would still get shocked. So what did the dog do? It just curled up in a ball and did nothing and just took the shocks to the face. And this is what we called learned helplessness, because the context for the dog was I can't do anything. I'm just going to sit around and do nothing and be depressed. And so maybe extrapolating this into the current state is like the nanny state, where they just take care of everything for you, and you don't have any responsibility over anything. And so this is like maybe the way that this same idea of learned helplessness from this shock experiment that we know from I can't remember the psychologist, but like this is how this scales up into large-scale systems. And so why I call this bankless is if you are taking custody over your own assets, you're becoming responsible for your money. And money is value. Money is tokenized labor into a unit. And so when you go without banks and you take care of private keys under your own custodianship, you become responsible for your financial assets. But that's just the start, right? It all boils down to private keys, where you finally have ownership over what we determine as value. And with Ethereum, the idea with tokens is we can tokenize anything. Now, first we're starting with like meme coins, but then it actually spirals into, hopefully, something more useful. And now we have this governance token revolution, where for the first time, you have assets in your wallet that give you agency, that give you power, that give you control. I think I skipped this slide, so I want to go back. Yeah, so there's like this crisis of meaning in the world where like suicides are at all-time highs. There's tons of thousands of reasons for why this might be true, but I think one of the big ones is that we have less and less agency in today's world. Like things are generally taking care of us, and meaning in life and power and control over our own direction is associated with just positive mental state. Your mood is better if you have control over what you can do. If you are the dog that can be in pain, but then you can hop over the fence to something better, to a better life in the future because of actions that you are able to take, all of a sudden you feel good. If you have the path forward that makes you feel better, that spirals into productivity, that spirals into ownership, that spirals into responsibility. And I think private keys at the bottom of all of this, sorry, I'm hopping around so much. Private keys is at the bottom of all of this. It is the primitive that responsibility stands upon. And then on top of that, we get all these governance tokens, right? Like if you care about these protocols, you have agency to dictate their future, and you provably know that because it's on-chain. You are provably given the power and the responsibility to express your desires and change the world as you see fit. And so while we all have these social structures that have improved upon time, every single one gives its participants, gives the people that stand on this scaffolding more and more responsibility over how they dictate their lives. And I don't know if maybe this is too soon, but cryptography feels like a pretty damn strong logical conclusion of where this goes, where we have the very, very interpretable, which is religion, to the provably and verifiably objective, which is cryptography. And so I want to pose everyone the question of, who are you when you have the context and the tools to be the best version of yourself? Because the tools that you live inside of, not Web 2, but Web 3, not Web 2 is not bad, but Web 3 is way better, gives you the platform to learn how to have the most agency, to self-actualize the best, so you can become the best version of yourself. And so this is just the question I think that we get to ask humanity, is when Web 3 does the thing that we all hope that it does, and it scales out to the entirety of the internet, and all of a sudden we have a self-sovereign internet, who does that make you? Who does that make us? When we have the power to do anything that we want to do, because it all boils down to private keys and ownership and responsibility. And so going back to the whole idea of social scaffolding and social structures, the social structures that give people the best and the strongest path forward to do what they want to do are going to be the things that are adopted, right? That is the long arc of history. And here we are on this frontier of cryptography and cryptoeconomic systems, and we have the platforms to do what we want to do the best. And that's why there's so many entrepreneurs in crypto. Probably at one part it's so young, but it's so permissionless. We can all get done what we want to get done, and we have the tools to do that. Now, we all just saw 2022. We saw what the power of permissionless technology can do. And unfortunately, I don't have a solution for that. But systemically, we all have the ability to be responsible over our little corner of Ethereum. And hopefully, we can all learn how to turn that into collective action and make society the most responsible, the most bankless society of all time. Thank you.